Hello and welcome to another Dread Specters Dominaria Set Review. I am Paul Wallace.
And I'm Tony Yeager.
And we are Dread Specters. Today we're going to be going over Red, but our grading scale is a little different than from anything you're probably used to. Instead of using an A to F or any star review, I don't know how anybody else really does it, we go off of a chess kind of analogy. We feel it's a little more intuitive for new players to kind of help them visualize how their deck's going to be built and how these pieces fit into their deck on the whole. Tony, would you like to elaborate?
Yes, the pawns in this, for our analogy, are support pieces. They are not really essential to your core game plan, but they help get you there. Your rooks are going to be your marquee cards and your finishers. Knights, I know how to play chess, I promise. Knights are your evasive threats. Bishops attack the game from a different angle than just a creature-based strategy. Your queens are generically powerful cards. They're going to come down and just end the game. And your kings are going to be build-arounds. They're going to be central to what your deck's plan is. So as we get a couple of cards in, it's going to be a little bit more intuitive. But we'll, you know what? Let's just get into the cards and take a look.
All right, we got Bloodstone Goblin, 1 in red. It is a Goblin Warrior, 2/2, so a teddy bear. Whenever you cast a spell, if that spell was kicked, the Bloodstone Goblin's going to get +1/+1 and gain menace until the end of turn. What do you think, Tony?
This is going to be a fine card. Most decks will play it and not really look at its text at all. It'll just be a 2/2 with some flavor text on it. There are going to be some decks, the kicker decks in, I think, green-red. We'll see a lot more of that later on. That I don't know that they're going to care. They're playing cards that are 7, 8 mana cost, and a 2/2, 3/3 sometimes with menace isn't really going to do much for it. The deck will play the card and happily, but it just seems a little bit like, I don't care in the late game.
So I think this will be a really great addition to those kicker decks because late game they are going to be investing that mana, and then this is going to get some incidental mana or damage in because they're going to want to devote some of their resources to blocking those bigger creatures that you've cast, and this is just going to soak up 2 of those resources.
That's fair. The evasion will add some value. Agreed.
All right, Champion of the Flame, another 2-cost creature, 1 in a red, human warrior, 1/1 this time, but it has trample. It also gets +2/+2 for each aura and equipment attached to it. What do you think, Tony?
This is going to be a great card with any deck that's got 6 or more auras and equipments. Like, this is going to be a deck that's fairly devoted to it. And there are a couple of other payoffs that we've seen with the auras and equipments kind of theme there. So it's going to be a solid rook. I'd go so far as to say it's one of the kings of that deck that wants this card.
Yeah, and I feel it's not so much a king, but a really great addition to that deck if you're already on that plan. I think this is going to be a good pickup. All right, Fervent Strike. 1 red, instant speed. You get +1 on one of your creatures and first strike, as well as haste.
Yeah, +1/+0, first strike and haste for a red. It's a combat trick, and sometimes it's one that you'll play at sorcery speed just because. It's cheap and it's fine. First strike is going to be great, but I don't know how much I'm interested in this. It is a bishop, but it's one that I could take or leave.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Fiery Intervention. It's 4 in a red, sorcery speed, choose 1. It either deals 5 damage to target creature, or it's going to destroy an artifact.
Classic bishop. This set really likes its 5-cost removal,
Yeah,
so we'll play it. And the artifact thing is not irrelevant. Although more often than not, it'll be somewhat irrelevant.
Yeah, the 5 damage.
Yeah.
All right, Fight with Fire. Ooh. 2 in a red, kicker cost, 5 and a red. Fight with Fire deals 5 damage to target creature. If this spell was kicked, it deals 10 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets instead.
This is a wonderful card, and I'm going to play every copy of him. It's a bishop that sometimes just takes over the whole kingdom and wins the game. Like, legitimately, very often when the game has progressed to the point where you're paying 9 for just
spell.
about anything, the text on it should be, you win the game. And that's what the text on this card is very often going to be.
Yeah. You win the game for 9.
Yeah.
All right, Fire Elemental. 3, red. Looking at a vanilla creature, Elemental, 5/4.
It's going to be a pawn. The 4 body is relevant. A lot has 2 and 3. So you're going to be looking at generally a 2-for-1 when you're swinging with this. I will play it in just about every red deck.
Low powered with the 4 body for 5. But as I've said in earlier things, usually the only color that's getting mana for mana, point for point, you're really seeing on your creatures is green. So it's okay. It is kind of low end, maybe a rook.
Yeah. This is a set that doesn't really have mana efficiency in its set of features. We're not going to see a charging monster soar. So this is kind of what we are expecting to pay for this kind of a big dumb beater. It's not exciting by any means.
No.
Well, we are going to review where we've been. It has been an exciting red set so far, and we're going to go to the next card.
All right, Fire Fist Adept. 4 and a red, human wizard, 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to target creature an opponent controls, where X is the number of wizards you control.
Seems neat. We're going to want 4 or 5 wizards in... at least 2 wizards in play. Sometimes it'll be, a Stormfleet Pyromancer and finish off a creature post-combat. This is going to be a classic rook in the wizard's deck. You're likely going to be in blue-red. And you're probably going to know where you're going before you pick up this card in draft. Is the main thing about this card. Neat. We're going to explore that when Dominaria drops.
Yes, we will. All right, the first eruption. 2 and a red. It's one of those sagas, so an enchantment that each turn is going to get an additional counter on it, essentially. When it comes down, it also gets a counter. So, the first chapter is the first eruption deals 1 damage to each creature without flying. That text is a little tiny.
Yeah, it is.
Then on your upkeep, after your draw step, you're going to get another counter added to this. The second chapter is going to add 2 mana to your mana pool.
This is why the wording was important, by the way, is so that the mana didn't empty from your pool.
Yes. And then chapter 3, sacrifice a mountain. If you do, the first eruption deals 3 damage to each creature. So a board wipe on.
Yeah, it's a board wipe 2 turns from now. It seems fine. That sacrifice a mountain is not optional. You will sacrifice a mountain if you don't have a land, and this is irrelevant for limited purposes. If you don't have a land that is a mountain, then you don't, and that's why that escape clause there is if you do. But by and large, you must sacrifice a mountain. Seems fine. It's a board wipe. It's a bishop, and we were just saying 2 and 3 toughness is kind of the thing. Yeah. So really what goes really well with Fire Elemental with its 4 body.
Right. All right. The Flame of Keld. 1 and a red. This saga on its first chapter is going to discard your hand. On the second chapter, you're going to draw 2 cards. On the third chapter, if a red source would deal damage to a permanent or a player this turn, it deals it
deals that much damage plus 2 to that permanent or player instead. This is a classic king. As far as the discard your hand goes, play it on turn 5 after you've played something else. That way you're still keeping some momentum going. if you pick this up early, you're pretty much making a statement of, I know where I'm going with this. I'm gonna play a lot of red, and hopefully that this is enough to get the job done. Or, Paul, you had some other thoughts on this.
Oh, I need to get my eyes checked.
The Flames of Keld.
Yeah, the Flames of Keld.
Being just an important, like a
Yeah,
rook, right?
I think it's more of a rook. I think that's pretty accurate.
And that's just to say that it is a finisher in a long line of just aggressiveness and beating down. The Flame of Keld is a card that is weird and bizarre, but I'm totally going to play it in Legacy Burn in my next event.
Yeah.
Totally
Late game, it can draw you some cards and get you some incidental damage out of it. For 2 mana, I don't think it's bad.
Yeah. Another thing is if you play it on turn 5 in the kind of a deck that wants this, you're going to have an empty hand anyway by then. So discarding your hand, no big deal. Drawing 3 cards the next turn, huge deal. So this is going to be a great card, and I think people are sleeping on it a little much, and we shouldn't be. Moving on.
Frenzied Rage. 1 in a red, an aura, enchanted creature. We'll get +2/+1 and have menace. What do you think, Tony?
I haven't been disappointed by an aura yet in this set. +2/+1, we've paid 2 for before, and we will pay 2 for again. Menace is just great this early. Like you go that 1-drop wizard that gets +1/+0 and haste or whatever, and then this turn 4, I'm just gonna swing for 3 menace for the first 3 turns.
Yeah.
The game will start with you at 11. I love it. Like. You want to be low to the ground or in the red-white auras?
On the red-white auras, definitely. I really like it, too. This set feels like the bargain set. You get a lot for your money.
Mm-hmm. Be careful against blue decks. There's a lot of bounce, but you know what you're doing if you're building that kind of a deck. All
right. Get to Chronicler. 1 in a red. Human Wizard has a kicker for 3 in a red. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand.
Neat.
1/3 body.
I like it. Yeah, if you're just playing it on the front end, it's fine. It's got a good rate to it. It is a fine pawn with a great upside if you're kicking it. So I'm with it.
Agreed. All right, get to Journey Mage. When it enters the battlefield, if you control another wizard, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. At 3/2 body, that's not bad.
It's not going to be bad. It's fairly average for the set. This is going to be one of the finishers in your wizard's deck. If you end up playing it early, don't fret. Oh, when it enters the battlefield, not if another...
Yeah,
it's lame.
That would be kind of broken if it was
right,
another
if
wizard.
It was any wizard enters, it deals 2. There's got to be a card that does that at a higher rarity. This is a common, so it's just going to be a fairly good pawn, and ignore what was going to be a really well-articulated rant there. Moving on.
Get to Lava Runner. 1 cost, 1/2. As long as 2 or more instants and or sorcery cards are in your graveyard, it gets +1/+0 in haste.
I'm not excited about this card, but I'll play it. It's a wizard.
Yeah, the wizard
is going to be a 2/2 for 1 often, which is fine. I'm not excited about this card.
It's okay. You get your money's worth. You get another bargain card. 2 power for 1 mana is not bad.
Yeah, fair. Horrible to draw in the late game, but it's fine.
All right, Goblin Barrage. 3 in a red, has a kicker, sacrifice an artifact or a goblin. It deals 4 damage to target creature. If the spell was kicked, it also deals 4 damage to target player or planeswalker.
Solid card, solid bishop. Make sure that you've got some goblins. I'll play this card even with 1 or 2 goblin or goblin makers in the deck. I like the card. It's solid.
Agreed.
Solid.
All right, the Goblin Chain Whirler. Red. It is a Goblin Warrior, 3/3. First strike, When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control.
I love this card. That second ability, the enters the battlefield ability, isn't going to be terribly relevant. It's going to be great against any rat colony decks that you see running around. There's a lot of 1 toughness, so it'll be fine. But that's not why you're playing this card. This is a beater that is only held back by the fact that it's triple red. Mm-hmm. And so you might end up casting this later than you'd like.
I feel a solid knight.
Yeah.
Really powerful if they're on the 1 toughness plan. The rogues, the Tetsuko. So asymmetrical, board wipe, hopefully. Worst case, you could drop it post-combat, maybe draw out a couple more deaths, since it only it only hits opponent's creatures and planeswalkers. So I feel a pretty powerful knight being a basic.
Oh, yeah.
All right, the Goblin War Chief. 1 red. It is a Goblin Warrior, 2/2. It does make all other goblins cost 1 less, and they get haste.
This is going to be a rook in the goblin deck. I don't know that I care too much outside of a deck that's got 6, 7, 10 more goblins. But it'll be great in that deck.
Yeah. All right, Haphazard Bombardment. 5 in a red. Enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, choose 4 non-enchantment permanents you don't control and put aim counters on each of them. At the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more permanents you don't control have aim counters on them, destroy 1 of those permanents at random. What do you think, Johnny?
I dislike this card. I don't like... This is a card that's better on the draw than it is on the play. 7 or 8 turns down the line.
Oh man.
I don't like this card. I'll play it. I mean, having a chance at killing 1 out of 4 permanents.
I mean, 2 or more. So you get to destroy 3 things for 6 mana.
Yeah, but destroy 1
At
of
random.
them.
At random.
I don't like it.
Yeah, if you could flicker it, if you could build a way to flicker it multiple times and just sprint out counters, you could win a war of attrition. If you are the jank master.
This is the dumbest king ever.
Ever.
I want you all to know, if you build this deck, the flickering blue-red, probably wizards. I'm gonna draft this deck, aren't I? If you can make this work, send us screenshots at Dread Specters on Twitter, because I want to see it work. I hate that I want to see it work.
All right. Jaya Ballard. She is a planeswalker. Legendary. Her +1 ability is add 3 mana, spend the mana only to cast instants or sorceries. Is that what that says?
Yes, I got this.
Right.
The text is really small. I've
tiny.
got bionic eyes here. +1, discard up to 3 cards, then draw that many cards. Ooh. -8, Past in Flames. You get an emblem with you may cast instant or sorcery cards from your graveyard. If a card cast this way, you put it into your graveyard instead. It's Past in Flames.
Nice.
Look, she's a queen. If you play her, she's probably gonna win you the game, or will die immediately.
Or die immediately.
Because that's the way of Planeswalkers in Limited. Moving on. I'm happy that she's in the set. That's all there is to say about her.
Jaya's Immolating Inferno. X red legendary sorcery. So you can only cast it if you have a historic or legendary creature on the battlefield. It's just a
No,
legendary.
no, it's just legendary creature or
Wow.
planeswalker. Yeah,
Man.
someone neat has got to be around to cast it.
If you do have someone neat around, this spell will do X damage to each of up to 3 targets.
This is a queen.
Yeah.
Sometimes the text on this card is, "You win the game, and 2 of your opponent's creatures are toast as well."
And you get to flavor win.
It's difficult to cast, but you'd be a fool not to run it in your deck. Okay. Wrong hotkey.
All right. Keldon Overseer. 2 in a red. Has a kicker cost, 3 in a red. It has haste, naturally. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you gain control of target creature until the end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until the end of turn.
This is the card that I want to see late game. It is. It is absolutely that. When you've got nothing going on, your opponent's got nothing going on, you've been trading creatures for the last 4 turns, you pull this off the top of your deck and you go, "Hey, I just won the game." I love it. This is what the kicker deck wants. This is what I want in every long game of Limited. This is... I hate to call this a queen. It's so... No, it's just a remarkably good
bishop.
in the late game. Yes.
Bishop.
It's good bishop.
It's a great bishop.
I'm gushing.
Yeah. It's okay.
I've had a lot of late games that this would have just won.
Yeah.
And that's where all of this is coming from. So this will sometimes win you the game.
Yeah.
Really good bishop.
That's a great card. Out of the kicker cards, it's one of the better ones since on the front end it is getting a lot of value. Where a lot of the ones were meh, but really great with the kicker. This one is really great without the kicker and pretty stinking good game-ending status on the back end with the kicker. So I really like this. A very solid bishop in the set.
Having haste with the hijack kicker is just great. Just great.
Keldon Raider, 2 red, human warrior, 4/3. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card.
I love it. It's a great pawn. If I'm in red, I will probably just play every copy of this card that I come across.
Yeah.
It's not a high pick in draft, but I will definitely love having every copy of it.
Yeah. Yep, solid pawn. Wants to be a rook, wants to be that.
It's got dreams.
Yeah, it's got dreams. Keldon Warcaller, 1 in a red, human warrior, 2/2. Whenever it attacks, put a lore counter on target saga you control.
Very often, this is going to be a grizzly bear with no text. Sometimes it's just gonna be awesome. If you're running a saga, run it. Make cool things happen. But otherwise, it's 2/2 for 2.
Agreed. All right, Orcish Vandal, 1 in a red, Orc Warrior, 1/1. Tap it, sacrifice an artifact. It deals 2 damage to any target.
This will be a solid rook in your deck that runs red, your historic deck that runs red. 2 damage to any target's going to kill many of the creatures in the set. And when it doesn't, you just go to face. So sometimes it'll be your finisher as well.
Yeah, and a lot of the things in this set do have 2 body, so it's going to kill a lot of the things. So I like it. Solid rook. It's a pawn. Really powerful pawn.
It is a rook, but you'll only play it in the decks where it's a rook.
The artifact clause is a little difficult.
Yeah, and that's what keeps it behind from being really any better than it is. Because if it were like sack a creature, it'd be in the wrong color in this set. It doesn't matter. Then it'd just be the dumb card.
Radiating Lightning, 3 red, instant speed. It deals 3 damage to target player and 1 damage to each creature that player controls.
Paying 4 damage for 3 damage to a player, 1 to each creature, is not something that I'm really wanting to do unless I know that I'm getting some value out of the 1 damage to each creature they control. So I would probably only play this in the sideboard, and it's a fine sideboard bishop for the right match.
Yeah, fine, solid sideboard bishop.
Simple, reliable sideboard bishop.
Rampaging Cyclops. 3 and a red. It is a Cyclops. 4/4. It gets -2, -0, as long as 2 or more creatures are blocking it.
This has got a great body for its cost. 4/4 for 4 is not something that this set really wants to do. It's really fond of its 3/3s for 5. So you're going to get a lot of value on this defensively. If you want to start using it to turn that corner, holding it back to block is not a big deal. You are going to want to enhance it in one way or another. Throw Arcane Flight on it. It's great.
Yep.
So
it does incentivize your opponent to block with more creatures, thereby what's the word I'm looking
weakening
for?
it, castrating
well,
it.
castrating it, but dedicating more resources to shutting it down and allowing you to get other things in. So that could be part of the plan. But yeah, I think a really solid blocker for the mana cost. It's pretty accurate in your description.
Yeah, no way exciting.
No. Run Amok. 1 in a red, instant speed. Target attacking creature gets +3/+3, engage trample until the end of turn.
That's a really great rate. I'm happy about this card. I will run the first one in every deck that's got red, and it doesn't take much to really make me want to run a second one as well. Really bad when you're very behind, but I mean, have some creatures around. Run enough to where this will be worth it, and it'll pay you off.
The target attacking creature clause is a little limiting, but
Yeah.
I think it does exactly what you need it to do.
Attacking creature, that's a good point. I probably will never run 2 of these in the same. Ooh.
Depends on the deck.
Yeah, it's going to be a very specific deck that's going to want me to run 2. Make me want to run 2. Doesn't matter, you got the point.
Boom. Words are real.
Words are real.
We can find them. Seismic Shift. 3 in a red, sorcery speed. Destroy target land. Up to 2 target creatures can't block this turn.
This is a bishop. It's a solid bishop. It's the very definition of it. It's not very exciting. I like cards that make it so the creatures without flying can't block, things of that nature. This is just a little bit narrow. I'd probably throw this into a sideboard, bring it in against opponents that I know are just a little bit light on creatures. Other than that, I'm not terribly excited by it.
Agreed.
That said, if you've got a bunch of flyers and just need to get a little bit of damage in, 2 target creatures. So there are ways to make this card worth it. Having a lot of knights in your deck is going to be one of them. So keep your eye out for that.
All right, Shivan Fire. 1 red with a kicker for 4. On the front end, it deals 2 damage to target creature. If it was kicked, it deals 4 damage to the creature instead.
It seems fine. I'm not excited by it. It is a bishop. It is a moderate to okay bishop.
I like it on the front end. It's one of the few cards that does have a bright side, or brighter side, if not as good, than the back end. Sometimes you will use this for the kicker, even though it is a bit of mana for the 4 damage. But it's kind of true to form with the rest of the cards in the set. Spending a little bit more in red for the direct damage to the creatures.
Fair.
Siege Gang Commander. 3 red goblin, 2/2 body. When it enters the battlefield, create 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. 1 in a red, sacrifice a goblin. It deals 2 damage to any target.
This is a king. It is the definition of a king, because pack 1, pick 1. If you pull this out, you know exactly where you're going. You're in red. You want a lot of goblins. If you pull it out in pack 3 and just didn't have a lot of goblins, well, then it's still going to be a solid rook, and incidentally very powerful card if you weren't able to build around it.
Yeah. Agreed. Alrighty. Skirk Prospector. 1 red for a 1/1. Sacrifice any goblin. Add a red mana.
This is going to be a fine card. Kicker is real in red, so a little bit of ramp whenever you want it is going to be great. Drop it on turn 1, it gets a couple of damage in. There's really not much of a downside, although 1 for a 1/1 is its own special little form of downside.
Solid pawn.
Yeah.
All right. Skizik. 3 and a red. Elemental. With a kicker of a single red. Trample and haste naturally. It is a 5/3 creature. At the beginning of the end step, if it wasn't kicked, sacrifice it. What do you think?
This is a bishop. It isn't a creature. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's a lightning axe that can be blocked.
Yeah.
Comes out of nowhere, leaves just from whence it came, as you will. So it's fine. I'll play it. I like it. Skizik's a fun card. And that art's really cool,
that
too.
That art is really cool. I want to see that in foil.
I really hope they did it right.
Yeah.
Like, keep an eye out, folks. That one's going to be great in foil.
Right. Squee the Immortal. 1 red, goblin, legendary creature. 2/1. You may cast him, Squee the Immortal, from your graveyard or from exile. Love Squee. What do you think?
Squee's amazing. I'm really happy that this came by. If I were to give it a grade, I would say that Squee does not get a grade. Squee exists outside of the game of chess.
Squee is immortal. 2-headed giant. 2 red giant warrior. 4/4 body, another evenly cost. When 2-headed giant attacks, flip 2 coins. If both coins come up heads, until the end of turn, this creature gains double strike. If both coins end up tails, it gains menace until the end of turn. What do you think?
It's a queen. It's just a very generically powerful card. If you open it, you're playing it. If you're in red, and if you're not in red, you might look at it because it is a pawn that is sometimes a queen. Because sometimes you just flip one of each, and then it's just a 4/4 swinging in like an idiot.
Hey, you guys. Valaduk, Keeper of the Flame, legendary human shaman, 3/2 body, not bad for 3 mana. At the beginning of combat on your turn, for each aura and equipment attached to this Valduk, Keeper of the Flames, create a 3/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste. Exile these tokens at the beginning of the next end step. What do you think, Tony?
This is the king of the red-white auras and equipment deck. Without auras and equipments, Valduk is just Keeper of the Lame. So you're going to need to just pick a lot of them up. And this card's going to win you a lot of games. That's its job.
Trample is so relevant on those tokens.
Yeah, the three attacking is just going to be great. And for those of you who have been playing since Battle for Zendikar, Oath of the Gatewatch, you can bust out your really pretty 3/1 elemental tokens. Because those were so pretty from back then. Anyway.
Varric's Bladewing. 2 red, legendary creature dragon, 4/4 flyer naturally. It has a kicker cost of 3. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you get a 4/4 legendary dragon creature token with flying, named
Karox
Bladewing.
I'm calling it Karen Bladewing.
Karen Bladewing.
She works in the accounting department on the 2nd floor. Nice woman.
Fear her wrath.
Fear her wrath. Varrix is a great card, a queen. Straight up win you the game. Especially if he brings along Karen.
Oh, yeah. Karen. Warcry Phoenix. 3 and a red. It is a Phoenix. 2/2 flyer with haste. Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you may pay 3. If you do, return Warcry Phoenix from the graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking.
Seems fine. It is a recursive knight. You might play it, you might not. It really depends on if you're wanting to go wide. Is if this is even playable.
Yeah, wide and fast. It'd be a pretty powerful knight if you're on that plan.
Yes, it'll do really well in decks with like goblins in it. Because that'll go wide naturally anyway.
Yeah. Warlord's Fury, 1 red sorcery. Creatures you control gain first strike until the end of turn. Draw a card.
I like this card. I like it a lot. This makes it okay to run a couple more frail creatures, low toughness creatures with high power, because this is just going to come down and ruin somebody's day. And the fact that it replaces itself with draw a card makes the downside for it being dead really kind of moot.
It is sorcery speed, so they can prepare for it, but it's just going to ruin their day because they're going to look at that big, nasty line and think, I can't block any of it.
Cycles for 1 at sorcery speed at the worst case scenario.
Right. Wizard's Lightning, 2 red. This spell costs 2 less if you control a wizard. Deals 3 damage to any target.
Lightning Bolt, this is not... Sometimes it is in the wizard's deck. It's just going to be a fine card. 3 damage for 1 or 3 mana has been played in every limited format since Alpha. So there's no reason that we won't be playing it now.
Yeah. Memorial to War. It comes in tapped. It is 1 red mana. For 4 and a red, you can sacrifice it to destroy a target land.
Hear this, denizens of the internet, dear friends. I will never play this card. I will never register it in a deck. I will never, ever do this.
I'm going to put in a commander deck that... I'm out of there. All right.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Join us tomorrow for our penultimate set review video where we will be going over every green card in Dominaria. There were words there. I don't know where they went.
We can find them. They will become clear to us.
New one will help us.
New one will help us.
New one will help us all.
He'll lead the way.
We'll see you tomorrow.